To another exciting meeting of the Charlton Water and Sewer Commission. Today is October 22nd, 2018, and it's about 6:37 PM. And we'll start off, as usual, with the reading of, first of all, Commissioners' Public Forum. Anyone here for that? I see no one. So we'll start off reading the warrants and minutes and abatements and all that whole bunch of stuff. Mr. Lemansky, would you please?
Sure. We're going to start off with the approval of the minutes of October 1st, 2018. And present at that meeting was Jennings, Gagner, Vaughn, Lemansky.
As a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on those minutes?
1 second, yeah. I hear none.
Nothing? Okay, hearing none of, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Aye. What else have you?
Okay. Warrants. Date is October 22nd, 2018, which is today. Viola, we've got for testing of 5E and 6W, $184.00. Viola again, this is for monthly services of $37,335.97. Viola sludge overage of $9,295.00. Excuse me, Peter, is this for a period of time?
From April through September.
April, okay.
So 6 months.
Okay, thank you. The next one is WB Mason office supplies of $12.94. Jeff Helgeson Company for J. Hammond Road Pump Station, $450. Cosgrove and Black Ulster Road easement, $459. If I may ask, is this an additional fee? Because I thought we did this last week, or last meeting.
There was, but he was reviewing it up till special town meeting, so that must be for time he had spent with some language changes or some discussions he might have with Chris McClure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mark Abrams, water rate study, $2,000. Am I reading these on the right line here?
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, all right. Thank you. McClure Engineering, Exxon Mobil water line, $3,713.75. And if I may ask, Peter, this here is a pass-through?
Correct. These two bills have already been sent to ExxonMobil, and Kleinfelder has said that they will reimburse the town for these.
Okay, because there's another McClure here for $2,696.25. So those two, again, will be a pass-through.
Yes.
Thank you.
Or will be reimbursed.
Right. Okay, Austin and Gas, $1,245.25. We got EJP shipping costs, $17.42. LaFour Electric on Glen Echo Shore Road of $150. We got our superintendent, Mr. Boria, reimbursed for training, $740. That's for a total of $58,299.58. And do you want me to go on with the abatements, or we'll do that as a separate motion?
Separate.
Yeah, we'll do that separately.
Okay.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second, please.
Second.
Any discussion on any of these that we haven't talked about?
All set?
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, now moving on to the abatements. We've got senior abatements flat, $377.72. Senior abatements meter, $371.37, for total abatements of $749.09.
And is that in the form of a motion?
That's in form of motion.
Okay. A second, please.
I can second.
Okay, any discussion on any of these abatements?
I abstain.
Aye.
Hearing none, please say aye if you're in favor. You already
Abstain.
did, you already did, so unanimous, so.
Okay.
That's it.
Now what I've got is a schedule of bill payables, which
That just needs to be signed, Mr. Lemansky.
Okay.
That's what reflects what you've read. So it's
Gotcha.
all approved, you just have
Got
to
a
sign
pen
it.
over there, Paul. Up there would be
Oh,
great.
all
No,
right,
sorry. I brought my pencil, I thought it was arithmetic. Okay. Okay, yeah, so this here is actually the paperwork for what we just discussed.
Correct, the invoices and everything is, all the backup
Okay.
document is there. That's what you have to sign, and we can send to the finance director, so those bills get paid.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Gale. and then
We all
Mr.
set with those, we can move on and accept our first appointment, Veolia. 7 o'clock, please come forward and give us the monthly operating report, the MOR for September, I assume.
Yes, good evening to all. The monthly operating report for the Charlton wastewater treatment plant. There were no safety accidents or incidents. The monthly safety checklist was completed, and training for the month of September was provided by Veolia's Safety Department, for the topic was on respirator protection. And then also, we attended first aid, CPR, and AED training provided by Harrington Memorial Hospital. Under compliance, there were no MPDES permit exceedances in the month of September. Plant performance report is attached, and the quarterly toxicity results were received, and we met our permit limits. Just to back up one step, as there were no exceedances, but as you can see on the monthly plant performance report, our ammonia was just there. The average for the month is a 1.42. We actually had a 1.40, so we can see where that heavy loading is that comes in on the weekends. And then under operations and maintenance activities, the weekly and monthly maintenance checklist was completed. Weekly generator full load exercises were completed with no issues. And all preventative maintenance work orders were completed. And hopefully this was the last time around for mowing lawns and leaf blowing and taking care of that and get ready for the snow. The monthly critical alarm tests were completed with no issues, which includes the influent high flow alarm, headworks building, high level sump pit, the high core unit failure, and EQ tank high level float switch. On September 9th, we had an alarm call at the treatment plant for a chemical feed alarm. There was nothing found, the system checked out, and there was no issues found. The secondary clarifier, number 2 waste and return line was jetted and backed out by Veolia's UGAM group to remove the blockage, and we were able to complete the inspection, and the unit was tested and put back online September 26th. During pump station activities, all the pump station alarms were tested and completed. Pump station weekly full load generator tests were completed. On September 17th, there was an issue with the phone line at the 6 West MTA pump station. Verizon was on site and resolved the issue. And the MTAs were sampled on September 3rd and September 19th. Under collection system activities, grinder pump calls have slowed down quite a bit. We've only had 2 for the month of September. One was 128 Sunset Drive for a high level alarm. There was grease in the wet well, which was preventing the float from turning the pump on. The grease was removed, the system was tested, and it was okay. On September 27th, there was a grinder pump call at 116 Glen Echo Shore Drive for a high level alarm. The float was being held in the down position with wipes and some large debris preventing the pump from turning on. The debris was removed, the system was tested, and there were no issues. And we marked out 17 dig safes for the month of September. And that completes the monthly operating report. I do have a couple of other updates. Last Monday, Veolia's New London group came up and they replaced the drain valves on RBCs 1 and 2 They put in new valves and the flexible joint we had discussed. And we filled up the RBCs last Monday, and Tuesday was number 1. Tuesday and Wednesday, we got number 2 filled. They've been holding water in the tanks without any issues, and we actually turned them on so they could exercise at the same time. Doesn't appear to be any vibration or any noises or anything, so we're gonna drain them and clean them and take the next step. That was in the report that John had provided. So those are the 2 up to date with the RBCs, so,
That's good news.
yes,
Very good news.
yep, so that's a real good positive, so we,
That was a quick fix?
at the starting point, yes.
Quick
Yep,
fix. So it's
yes.
under budget?
I didn't see the invoice myself,
Okay.
but yes.
No.
No?
What? No.
Not under budget? No.
At budget, not under budget.
Questions?
Go ahead. No.
Keith?
Yes, sir.
I know this is, I guess it's an ongoing issue, but my comment is on ammonia.
Yes, sir,
Our limitation's 1.42,
that's correct,
and we're at 1.4.
that's correct.
There's like
Right on the line, sir.
zero room there.
That's
Zero
correct.
room. Just so that everyone knows, the ammonia is directly related to urine.
Yes, it's in the collection, it's in the
Right, and-
wastewater.
And these, according to our permit, you have to do that ammonia test on Monday.
Once a month, it's on Mondays, we're required by our permit.
Okay,
And the remainder of the month is on Wednesdays.
okay.
And if there's a holiday, we have to sample the holiday.
And where does that sample, where do you actually take that sample?
At the effluent, right after UV, before it goes out to Katy Brook.
Okay, so this
That's
is,
on the effluent permit limits.
okay, for discharging.
That's correct, sir.
All right, so, all right, and now, if you were to go and take this test Thursday, do you think it would come in at this level, higher or lower?
No, it would be lower.
It'd be lower, considerably lower,
Within a margin, sure.
20%?
Could be, yeah.
Could be.
It all depends on what the flow is in the plant and what the loading is coming into
Okay,
the
okay,
treatment
because-
plant itself.
Because I guess what you, by taking this reading at the exit of our system
Yes,
on Monday,
Yep.
what it's doing is it's really telling you what the slug
That is
over the
correct.
weekend was there. So
That's
it's
correct.
relative to activity on the weekend.
that's correct.
Okay.
But Veolia has also been sampling the influent coming in at the
That's
Headworks
correct.
building to see what the influent concentration is as well. So you can see the direct correlation
Right.
on Monday with the higher levels of ammonia versus the rest of the week. So,
And have you
It's
seen,
pretty
as
evident.
far as the inflows, when you do straight ammonia on a Monday versus on a Thursday, how much of a change is there? Or-
On Mondays, we've had a mid-70s to mid-80s for a reading milligrams per liter, and then our sampling on a Wednesday, we would be at 47 or 50.
Okay.
So definitely quite the
Yeah,
increase.
big drop.
Yep.
Okay, and so, and I see your average flow for September was 213,000 gallons per day.
Yes.
And our limitation, which is set up for 450,000 gallons.
That's correct.
So, you know, there's not much room there for us to take on added flows. Unless those flows are more of a household type versus a commercial. Because I think we're all pointing to this commercial loading coming from two major customers, which would be
It
the
appears.
Turnpike. Okay.
and this limit is seasonal.
That's correct.
This limit's gonna increase next month.
November 1st, we go to 8 for a
It goes
monthly
because-
average.
Because of the season change.
That is correct, yes.
So-
So this will go up to how high?
8,
Instead of 1.42,
4.2,
it'll go up to 8.
Yes.
that's correct.
So that's what, 600%?
So the hopes are that we can have RBCs 1 and 2 running by springtime when the limit goes back down to 1.42. And that additional 20% of treatment capacity will help us stay well below the 1.42 and treat the strength of waste we have. So even though we're collecting only 200,000 gallons per day, or half of what our NIPD's permit says we can do for the plant, the concentration of that 200,000 gallons per day is probably greater than if we were collecting 500 or 550,000 gallons per day of household waste.
Because it would get diluted.
Correct. Well, yes,
Yeah, yeah,
because you wouldn't have the strength from that one customer, so.
okay,
Right.
okay. And,
Now, how many RBCs are we running right now?
We are running 8 RBCs right now.
Oh, okay, I thought maybe 5 or 6 or something, so
No.
you said just 2 more would make a big difference. Oh, right.
no, but now with the repair, we can run 10.
Yeah,
Once you get them up in line and get the bugs going and all that.
We still have to continue going through to check
Yeah.
them out 110%. You know, we just took the initial step was to get the drain replaced, fill
Start
the
up and go.
tanks. What's that, sir?
Start up and go, Ron said.
There's a few things.
There's a few other
Yeah,
things Peter and I were talking about. We've been looking at the RBC, so there may be
Yeah.
a few other things that have to be addressed. You know, so. But the good news is the tanks are holding water right now, and been exercising the equipment. Media looks good, gear reduces, sound fine. Doesn't seem to be any noises out of the ordinary, so.
And Keith, what can you point, possibly the reason for less pump calls?
The end of the season, people have their seasonal cottages, I would,
Oh,
that's
okay,
my
okay.
possible viewpoint.
All right,
You know, we get a lot of calls at the beginning of the season, April and May,
Yeah.
which a lot of the cottages are being opened and people are getting ready to set up their summer cottage vacations. And
okay.
then,
And have
you
them
know,
pumping in.
in the fall, they close up their cottages, and that's my viewpoint as far as I could tell.
Okay, I thought maybe the new pumps would have a bearing on it as well.
It's possible, yes. We've changed out quite a few of them, so a lot of the systems have been
Yeah,
upgraded, so
yeah,
that's also,
okay. Good, yeah.
we good. Peter, you got anything more for Keith?
I think that was just about all of it.
Jen, no? I guess
all
we're
right,
good.
thank you
Good
very
to
much.
go.
Have a
Thank
great
you very
evening.
much.
Thank you, Keith, you too.
Stay
Good luck
warm.
with your costume.
Oh, I see Mr. McClure in the audience here. Chris, are you coming separately on your own, or are you waiting for Beta or something to come in?
No, I have just a couple items to talk
Sure,
about.
well, come on up.
Good evening. So, I just wanted to come in and talk about Chris McClure, McClure Engineering. We all know each other by now. And the Carpenter Hill Road status update. I've met with Jerry up at the site and determined there's 750 feet of piping that needs to be installed in order to connect the existing drain pipes along that road into a catch basin, which would prevent the pipe from plugging again and creating the situation that we see up there. So we did take note of the materials there. It is a 6-inch. It's a white plastic pipe. I don't know, some sort of drain pipe there that he's going to probably reconnect with a Fernco and get that pipe in down below the cover the swale and connect down into the basin. So he wanted me to at least come in and tell you folks how much pipe is in the ground. I guess he would be providing with a either a material cost. He did state that his guys did have some time they freed up, so he may be able to get them up there and do that work, but there's gonna be some material costs associated, probably some stone, the pipe material itself, and then that would be connected into the catch basin, which would need a cover and a grate and frame. So that those must be some additional costs that would be incurred at that, for that work.
I guess, question, is any of this going to help with the infiltration we currently are having on Carpenter Hill Road with our sewer line?
I would expect, due to the, I wouldn't expect you getting any infiltration in that sewer infrastructure on Carpenter Hill Road. That
You know,
system is
the
brand new.
report is we are.
So the I&I study that we had completed said that there's, that trunk line coming down Carpenter Hill Road was
Yes.
one of the largest increases after a rain event.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
So we have not authorized we have not authorized anybody to go up there and kind of identify where that's coming from,
Sure.
whether it's the Phase 2 extension that was done partway up the road.
Sure.
Or if it was the Carl Storrs extension.
Yeah,
But like you're alluding to, the Carl Storrs is probably only 5-6 years old, so you wouldn't think that's the case. However, when Veolia went up and when this first happened with the settling and the sinkholes along the line,
Yes.
up on the Carl Storrs
Yep.
portion of the line, when Veolia cambered that, they said they found debris inside the pipe, which kind of led them to some concern that it could be some type of infiltration in the area. They didn't say that the pipe was compromised in the area of the sinkholes.
sure.
But while the camera was there, they said they saw some debris in there that could be evident of something. So, again, without us either cameraing the whole line or, like, I tried to get our Veolia guys up there to pop manhole covers, but with vacations and manpower, they didn't
Yeah,
have time to
yeah.
get up there and do it, so. Hopefully we can get up there and do that sooner than later to identify which area of the line is being impacted the most for the I&I. But I mean, as Chris said, I was up there the other day when I was reading meters, and that swale is totally filled in. There's no way to just try and run these to daylight.
No.
And think that they're gonna drain into that swale, because that, call it a country swale or whatever, it's filled in almost to the same level as the road edge.
Yeah, ever since they started, those fields were fallow for quite a while, and it was very easy to maintain, if there's vegetation there, you're not gonna get any, runoff from the fields. Now those fields are being used every year to grow silage.
Right.
And typically what the farmers do when they're pulling silage is that they don't go to the main access drive
No, there
either.
is not one there.
They just
go off
access
the road.
wherever they
Right.
do right off the road. And, with the blowing of that, of the dirt, once they take that silage out of there, or they turn it over in the spring, it just migrates into the area. So the pipes need to be connected there.
And Chris, you said how many feet? 750
It's about 750 feet, yeah,
feet?
to get it down to
Well,
the nearest catch basin.
I'd like to make a motion that we fund this $2,500 for the installation of this pipe. And, it's a toss-up whether it's our problem or someone else's
Sure.
problem, but it all ends up as our problem. So the $2,500 doesn't even cover the cost of the pipe. So that, it's certainly a deal.
Yes.
We're gonna have the highway department's gonna do this. It'll be under their supervision.
Yeah, the highway department, so. So can I just go back to that I&I on Carpenter Hill Road? So,
I'm just made a motion.
oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, we have a motion second, please.
Second.
This was spending, was it limit not to exceed $2,500?
That sounds good, thank you. I'll take that, accept that.
Okay,
as a
any
correction.
more discussion on this? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye,
Aye.
aye and aye.
Okay, so, relative to that,
Sorry.
that line was tested, both the force main and sewer main. That pipe was all new pipe. It should be fairly easy to see. Now, the couple areas that I would potentially be of concern would be where those sink holes developed. We typically, the pipe that comes out of the basins, and they're adjacent to those basins, we try to, at the request of former Commissioner, Mr. Elliott, is to put a break in that pipe right there so it gets some flex. But if those sinkholes develop and you're getting that flex, continual flex with trucks riding over it, that may be, that would be the only area that would potentially be of concern there. And there's 2 sinkholes, so those would be the places that I would look.
So when you refer to a break in the pipe, you're talking about breaking the sewer pipe?
Yeah, we don't got a break in the sewer pipe, but we put a joint in the
Joint,
sewer
right.
pipe right outside of the, because the basis behind that recommendation was that the structure itself is getting hammered by the trucks, you know, so you get some movement there. If you got a straight pipe in there, that coupling will give a little bit of flex for that. So, but again, with that sinkhole that had developed, which is pretty substantial, if you were getting pressure right there in that area, that might be where you potentially would get a break. There was 700, I believe we did 1,750 feet of new pipe was installed back in, 7 years ago. So again, I don't know where they reviewed the I&I. Was it potentially down at the intersection of Copper Hill Road and Route
Yes.
20? It was, okay.
So they took that one manhole right there and did flow meters at 3 different spots, so
Oh.
they could kind of get it, what was coming, so they could break
Sure.
it. So, and Carbon Hill Road is the easiest, because it's one dead-end line right
Yeah,
there.
nope,
Then they had what was going up to Route 20.
Yes.
To the whole south portion of town.
sure,
Then they had what broke off and went up to the whole lake area.
yeah,
And then they put 2 more down on South Sturbridge Road. They got the western portion on Route 20. So they broke it up into those 4 quadrants. And of those, the shortest one, which is Carpenter Hill Road,
Sure.
showed the most inflow. So it could also be, there's a lot of water that sheets off that hill. There's a lot of houses on the
Sure.
beginning part of that line with sump pumps in their basement that could be going right into the sewers as well. So there's
Yeah.
a bunch of different things we need to evaluate.
sure.
But that area was identified as the most increase, and the most, affected by I&I.
It's
Right,
interesting.
not what you'd expect.
Yeah.
No, not what you expect, right?
Mr. Chairman, maybe it's possible, if Mr. McClure could look back on that as-built and try to identify those locations of those 2 breaks. I don't want to refer to them as breaks, those 2 mechanical.
Flex couplings, yeah.
Couplings.
Yeah.
Couplings.
Yep.
So that they can be identified and then marked out in the field, and then when, we could ask Highway that when they're digging there, to maybe dig a little deeper carefully, just to inspect them.
I think a
It's under the
camera,
roadway.
I think a camera would show it,
And
just,
Viola did camera it. They didn't show any breaks in the lines.
oh, okay.
And that
okay.
was back when the sinkholes were already there.
Oh,
so
okay, great.
Is it possible that the line didn't break, but maybe it's separated?
I don't know.
Because it was put in there so the line
You,
would
it would have
flex?
to, it would have to separate right at the, again, it would have to separate right at where the, where that, line comes into the catch basin, into the structure itself. That would be the, obvious, the obvious spots for an I&I are right there where the pipe comes in, somewhere in along the pipe, and if you have a camera in it and you're not seeing a break in it, and then obviously the, the structure, the manhole cover structure itself, so.
Well, if we have those numbers, then
Yeah.
if we're gonna go and inspect it again, then it says when you get to station 355.
Sure.
Take your time and look at that
Yeah.
upside down and right side up. And
Sure.
see, that way that'd be a big help, Chris.
Okay, no problem.
Especially if we're gonna be digging up, not the road, but digging up the,
Right, so we're not gonna be under the road, because the pipes are they were able to find the pipes, they are to daylight, so we can grab them from the road edge and not affect any end of the road.
Exactly, yeah, there'll be all the work to remedy this situation is gonna be, right off the side of the road in the swale.
So, about a week and a half ago, Highway also helped us out with a groundwater issue we had on Route 31,
I'm so glad.
on City Depot Road by the Turnpike Bridge.
I've had 3 people ask me, just what happened down there, where's the water? Where's the
Where's
water?
the water, right?
It's like, everyone's seeing the deer in the morning and then they're not there. It's, well, how come there's no more water?
Right, so the water was coming up out of the middle of the roadway by our sewer manhole. And it
Yeah.
was also, when you pop the cover, you'd see water just flowing in through the risers, through the bricks that were
Okay,
laid. So
okay.
we actually put a 5-gallon bucket, and we could catch enough water within a minute. So there was at least 5 gallons per minute flowing
Oh.
into the system. So we thought it was sheeting off of the hill and kind of undermining the system. So Jerry got his guys up there and dug along the road edge, and it was all dry gravel. So then we just figured that the stone's entrenched, so it must be following, the groundwater must be
Okay.
finding its way to the trench, hitting the manhole, and that's acting like a dam, popping the water up and into the roadway. So, Jerry and his guys came in and they dug at an angle into where the line is, up gradient from the catch basin. They didn't dig deep enough to get as deep to the line, but they
Yeah.
dug till they hit the groundwater, did a stone trench with corrugated pipe to the road edge, and then ran that into the next catch basin they could find.
So similar to like a French drain.
Yes. But,
Perfect.
so that's, yeah, so that alleviated a lot of that water.
And
Thank you.
as you know,
I've
well, no, especially in
been
the
haunting
winter.
him.
Yes.
especially in the winter, was always a
It
safety
was
issue.
always-
Yeah,
it was always
I've
a
been
big
haunting
issue.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, that's taken care of. He did not charge us anything for that fix, for that
That's
repair.
great.
So, and he told me that the $2,500 for this repair covers his cost for pipe, based on the
Yeah,
quantities he
yeah.
got from Chris, so. So I
Very
kinda
good.
appreciate him for doing that work
Oh,
for
no,
us, so we don't have to go hire another contractor to do that, and have to probably be at least 3 times that to have someone
Exactly.
else come in and do the same work, so.
yeah, very
He-
good.
As Chris said, he has time, and I believe I'll call him tomorrow, say it was approved, and this will be done this week.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry.
Thanks.
Now, one of the, I guess, the discussion you just had relative to that issue is exactly the reason why Mr. Elliott at the time had made this recommendation about putting that clay dam and alleviating into the drain, because this is
Right.
exactly what will happen over time, is that you're trying to alleviate the
Right.
same type of issue, and,
Yeah.
so, there are, and, just so folks are aware that with the new water line that's going in, there's a bunch of Ripley dams in there, not to be I&I, but, same type of thing to stop the water from pouring down that water, that, the new water main that comes in, that those dams will alleviate, will prevent the water from, creating issues within that trench line.
We're talking
So-
about groundwater.
Groundwater, yes, groundwater, yep. So, okay, the other item that I'd like to discuss is, everyone is aware that the Masonic Home Road water line is going in. There's some issues on the front end of it with a telecommunications duct, but things will start to, pick up after they got through that. And relative to that is a request for McClure to do some oversight. There was some funds that were allocated for oversight with the ExxonMobil agreement in the town. Currently, right now, I know Steve from your department is handling the oversight on a bunch of projects that you have, but I believe it's close to five water projects that are going right now. I would recommend or look for approval to have a representative from McClure either up there during the construction of this that's occurring now, or on a routine basis, to keep an eye on what's going on, so that kind of alleviate some of that responsibility from Steve, because it's just too much work that's occurring. I'm sure Peter has things that are on his plate that are taking his time as
Are
well.
you talking about the center of town?
The center of town,
Okay,
yes,
right.
yes.
It's my understanding is the agreement that we signed, which included your company doing the oversight, and it had a limit as far as value goes, because one of the things that the agreement calls for someone who has the authority to make on-site decisions. Because what they didn't want to have happen is they didn't want to be working and then have an issue, whether, again, the way things come up.
Sure.
When you're underground and you're digging in the middle of the road, sometimes you find things that you weren't intending to find, is they wanted to make sure that the project work did not get held up, and that there was someone representing the town on site who could make a decision.
Right.
So that's when we included within the agreement was, fine, give us some oversight dollars, and we'll have, again, you were mentioned in there.
Sure, yes.
So that's why I always thought it was there,
Okay.
as far as McClure being there.
Well, yeah, we haven't been up there since. I mean, it started Friday. They got, we did get called in for that conflict with the, the telecommunications duct, and we were able to solve it with all the parties involved.
Right, but up until now, for instance, at the pump station.
Yes.
Your oversight's been involved there?
I have been reviewing, basically
Documents.
going to the project meetings, reviewing, again, reviewing issues that come up. But for the most part, it has been Steve from your office that's been the RE on that site. I would answer calls from him. I would just basically be there in case anything come up, tree
Okay,
removals,
okay.
that type of thing, so.
Okay, and that's how we were planning on covering that at this point in time? But
That, that's how we were planning on possibly trying to cover all the projects, yes, but with everything that's going on with the Berry Corner Road, project going on, and they have 2 crews going there. So Ty and Bond has 1 RE overseeing 2 crews. Steve is not really an RE on site, he's not pulling ties, he's not really responsible for anything. He's just
Right.
there to make sure that what's being done is being done per spec to cover our interest.
He's our eyes and ears.
Yes, and he's secondary to the RE that's on the site, that's
Right.
responsible from Ty and Bond. In looking at how that project's going, we definitely need someone there. Steve's doing, I think, a good enough job at that. I've been stopping up and kind of checking on things as well. But now that everything's come into full swing, and with Albanese next season possibly running 2 or 3 crews to get as much work done as possible, I think we're going to need, I think Chris, whether he has someone there full-time, I think might be a little bit overkill, but if he can have someone there stopping by on a routine basis 2 or 3 times a day, and on call from the RE on site from Kleinfelder in case they run into a hiccup, because it's funded from ExxonMobil, it's in, and again, Exhibit H, where that's spelled out, is in your packet if you want to review it. But it says that ExxonMobil will reimburse Charlton up to $100,000 per year for payments that Charlton will make to third parties for the below activities related to construction. And it goes into field oversight, field clarifications, material submission and approvals. So I think because the funding is there, it behooves us to keep Chris involved, keep McClure involved as much as we can. And again, the Kleinfelder has an RE on site, a safety person on site. So to have a McClure person on site the entire time might be a little bit overkill when there's a lot of digging and a lot of watching, where I think if you could set up some,
Yeah.
not really scheduled, but just some routine visits and have someone available if something were to come up, I think that'd be beneficial. And Whitewater also has somebody now who's been on both sites and coming by and snapping some pictures and inspecting the trenches, so.
Is Kleinfelder, excuse me, Paul, is Kleinfelder overseeing the Berry Corner Road project as well?
No, Kleinfelder is overseeing
So
your
is
pump
that
station.
Ty and Bond?
Yes,
So Ty and Bond is the engineering company of record doing the review?
correct. So
Oversight.
Southbridge hired Ty and Bond to do the
Okay,
design,
just so we get clear.
and Ty and Bond is following through doing the oversight as well,
Okay,
providing the
okay.
RE on site. Mostly to take ties and supervise the installation to make sure it's
Right.
done. per
Also,
spec.
it's not to stop a project, but if something's going on that shouldn't be going on, then
Yeah.
they would immediately report back to the head oversight engineer, and that head oversight engineer would then, if I'm following the protocol, would then go to the construction company and say, time out here, you need to explain why you're doing this. If you continue it, then it's possible to stop the job.
Right.
Okay, but the inspector, right then and there, like for our inspector that we're using Steve to do this, he can't stop the job.
He's not, I mean,
I think he can.
well, he could stop it, but the reality is, what he's gonna do is call, really what he does is, we were involved with review of the design, we're involved with how those
Yeah,
water
yeah.
lines are aligned, what type of issues you come in, the contractor wants to put in pipe as quickly as possible. We had an example there the other day, hey, we could put a couple bends in here and get this pipe in, and it'd be a lot, probably quicker, and not have to get the, get the hole opened up as much. But the reality is, we wanted a straight stick of pipe in there because we didn't want any additional bends if we could do it. It took a little bit more work. They didn't get as much pipe done, but I think it was a better all job for the, now, again, that behooves the town to have that there. The
That's
RE's
right.
gonna say, hey, we're gonna just put this in and let the contractor do what he's gonna do, and just watch him and monitor that. Where we say, well, no, if we can do this way, that's our preference, so.
That's their preference, but we're gonna live with it forever.
Exactly.
Versus they're only gonna live with it for 1 year,
That's right,
and then they're gone,
yeah.
so.
So another thing to consider there is, like, as Peter said, that this contract was awarded, and it's 496 days for the completion, substantial completion. Yeah, 496 days from the issuance of the award to substantial completion. So you can imagine what's gonna happen next spring. And I think at that point in time, we'll get back in front of the commission, find out what they're proposing.
That's like next November, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's 6 miles of water main, so it's gonna be there's gonna be a lot, there's gonna be more than two.
More than one crew, okay.
Yeah, more than one crew for certain.
So there is a deadline in their contract?
Yes, 490, so I was able to nail that down, so it's 496 days to substantial completion.
That's good.
Yes.
That's great.
Chris, are they returning as backfill the same material they're digging out? And if so, what are they doing to treat it or screen it or anything else?
So basically with that backfill, they have this first section of pipe until it gets, until the compaction issues get hammered out. They're bringing in fill. And then from there, they'll bring a processor on site, and basically they'll take it and process it, remove the stones. And we're having very good success with that up at Berry Corner Hill Road. They have a yard there, they're just taking it, keeping it, the key there is to keeping it dry and getting it back in the trench and getting your compaction in. So once it transitions from the fill to the material that we're pulling out, we'll also be testing that as well, so ensure that we're getting those, the same
Is the pipe
compaction.
being surrounded by pea stone or sand?
Bedded
or-
in sand, yes, bedded in sand, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stone dust too?
Stone dust, the sand, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever material, it's just a bedding material, but it's not stone, because stone would be the most expensive, so they're gonna go with either a sand or a stone dust, but anything that's, protect the pipe and, kind of future digging, you'd be able to see that there's a pipe in there without hitting it, so.
So am I to interpret here that there has been a problem with some of the backfill?
There hasn't been, but we, if you recall, the North Main Street
Yeah, oh, yeah.
project, so we didn't want to run into that
Oh, right. So-
situation, so.
So the high moisture content, put it off to the side, bring in, okay.
We've learned from the lessons of the past.
Okay.
For the first few hundred feet, ensure that you have adequate some good backfill. Don't expect you're gonna pull everything out of the hole and put it to the side of the trench and put it back in. That's not gonna happen.
Okay, and the contractor on Berry Corner Road is who?
Ludlow.
Ludlow.
Ludlow
So tomorrow morning, fast forward here, Ludlow says, we've got 150 yards of material we gotta get rid of, because our site's getting put up or getting to a point that we can't take anymore. According to the contract, I've gotta give the town first option of the material. So where's that material going?
That material is being processed at, no one's called with any excess at this
No,
point in
I'm
time.
saying, I'm hypothetically,
Yeah.
tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Phone rings from Ludlow, I've got 150 yards of material that's in the way, and we're obligated to give the town the first crack at it. So where's it going?
Well, it would go wherever it came back to me, and I'd probably call, Jerry to determine if he has a use for it, or let the
Okay.
commission know at the same time.
Because that is gonna be coming up, and that scenario will happen. So I think the sooner that we come to a destination, everyone will be better off, including Ludlow, Albany's, and whatever projects we're thinking of doing here in town.
What we're finding up there at Berry Corner Road is that because of due to the rock, now that material is getting used up, because now they're not making any material, all they're doing is making rock, and if you want rock, they said there's plenty up there for you, so.
Yeah, it's good road base.
But it's not getting broken down into stones, it's just, it's rock of various sizes,
It's
so.
not good fill,
If you've got a 10-foot fill, it's great fill.
if you want it to settle.
Right, so like I said, he's got more rock than he knows what to do up there now,
Yeah.
but as he pulls that out, now there's no more gravel coming out of the trenches, so he's gotta be using whatever excess he has
Right.
into this area. So I don't expect it to happen, based upon, with this new blasting protocol that they're going through up there. I don't expect there to be much excess material there at all.
Before we get the calls, are they planning on blasting, or are they still gonna hammer?
No, they've already, did they do that, they were gonna probably do their first blast today.
They did their
The game
first,
starts in 50 minutes, Chris.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
so-
okay.
no.
they did their first blast today.
They did their first blast.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm sure they're professionals. They did the whole protocol, go to people's houses and all that stuff.
Yes, they
Yep.
have to. Yep, they
Yeah.
did all the pre-blast survey.
Yep.
The fire department is very involved with blasting now, so they had a, officer on site to supervise.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It's gonna have an officer on site now?
Yes, fire department detail.
Wow. When did they start that?
I don't know, but fairly recently.
They did use a local, a company for that blasting, which is
Yes,
good.
and they get the siren that goes off?
I wasn't, I don't
I
know.
remember.
Actually, the area they were blasting was on the far side of,
Okay. I
so there's no
just-
homes or anything else in that area, it's just that area out towards the dump, so.
Specific work down at South Charlton Res, that the whistle would go off, they give it 3 blasts,
Yeah.
and then boom,
You can't use your cell phone anywhere near there because it could create a issue,
initial.
the frequencies.
You warning me? Yeah, okay.
I guess could the commission make a motion to authorize McClure to, I guess, give us some partial oversight of the school loop portion of the Albany's contract?
You want to
Or-
be more specific than the word partial? Do
No,
you-
I think, I think the oversight should follow what we've already agreed to with ExxonMobil in our agreement,
Okay.
which should be doing that oversight with the stated limitations.
Okay. Yeah, no, we won't sit there all day long, obviously, but we'll be there to continue to document, make sure the area that's there, if she has any issues, and, yeah, with their safety protocol that they're working under, they just don't need another guy hanging around because, people
There's
get
a lot,
anything.
there's a few people
Yeah,
outside the red zone.
red zone.
I say too, I think the good thing about Albanese doing the center of town is that we've worked with them before, and it's stood the test of time. You know, we
Sure.
don't have any
No.
indentations where they put their piping in and stuff, so, it seems like a good contractor to work with.
Yeah, your sewer lines, there's no evidence of where the
I
sewer
don't
sewer
know
lines
what
are
time
put in
they
there.
quit today, but they seem to be off the road before the school buses got there, and they did about 400 feet from what I could gather, so.
Yep.
So they're about a third done. Yeah, in 2 days?
2 days.
2 days, yeah. So I'm gonna put that in form of a motion.
It's
Do you
it's
want a
up to
form of
you.
a
I
motion?
just- Chris, would you like a motion, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, as
What's
long
your-
as we all,
Because I'm saying it's already
already
been
there.
agreed to.
Yeah. Okay.
So, again, in general, we're gonna continue to follow that agreement,
Sure.
okay?
okay, so that's basically it. I mean, the mixers are in the 2 tanks. They're not activated yet, but they did get those in last week. And so the 2 tanks, Hammond Hill and Mass Ave tanks, so those should be getting fired up, and that hopefully is gonna improve the water quality, you know.
Huge,
and,
that'll be
yeah,
huge.
Yep. And the other good thing that I talked to Pete about after one of these meetings is that, given the fact that they are running electrical conduits up to these tanks to power those mixers, and doing the markouts for the water lines and everything else, you'll have as-built drawings that will, basically show, if they weren't so great before, they are gonna be all updated. So you have all the utilities that were marked up to each of those tanks, where the locations of them are, for generations to come on
All right,
working on this water line.
only one of those tanks is on our property.
Right, exactly, but all this infrastructure that's going in, it really giving us a good idea of, getting a new mark out there, making sure the utilities are where they say they are, and give us a good baseline going forward, so. Exciting, it's exciting.
Yeah.
I'd say.
It's only 18 months late.
Oh.
It's supposed to start
shouldn't have said anything.
in April of
You were ahead.
2017.
Should've just.
Hit the wrong button. You came close to it, so I had to push it.
I was sitting there laughing.
Yeah.
I think I'm good.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Chris.
Thanks for coming, Chris.
I see in the audience Peter Newton, who is gonna tell us how Beta's making out doing exploration for water down in the Buffinville area.
Right. Well, good evening, everyone. It's, you don't do anything easy here, do you? We, as I'm sure, well, you all know, because we were here, we did have some success with finding some decent material. We went out back in early September, mid-September, and did some additional testing, the 48-hour test. And It took me a while to tease out what that test was, what the results of that test were telling me, but what I believe to be the case is that, as we kind of talked about before, we have a relatively thin, 25-foot thick layer of good gravel underneath 70 feet of silt. So, it's a confined aquifer. What we observed is immediately, I mean, within 5 minutes, the drawdown at 30 gallons a minute went to 14, 15, 16 feet. And then very quickly tapered off. The rate of decline tapered off. Do you have the reports in front of you?
You do have it somewhere.
Mine is home, I don't have it in front of me.
2, 3, I think,
In that book, Rob, is,
in our book.
in the book, the report, I put a copy in the
I've
book.
got this one.
Good, thank you, Peter.
So you can see that the rate of decline changed very quickly. Now, there's some processing, some mathematical processing we do to take a look, try to tease out what the signal is telling us. And the long and the short of it is after about 200 minutes, so the rate of decline on a semi-log scale, so where time is, 1 minute, 10 minutes, 100 minutes, 1,000 minutes. At about 200 minutes of time, the rate decreased again fairly dramatically. The rate of decline decreased again dramatically. What that tends to tell us in a confined aquifer is that cone, the drawdown cone, it's really a pressure cone, extended out and then encountered some boundary that said, all right, you don't have to stop, you can stop declining so fast now, we're gonna help feed you. So it's basically what we call a recharge boundary. Presumably that's the lake. There's no reason to think it's anything else. But we don't really know exactly, we don't know exactly what it is, but we assume it's the reservoir. So that's good news. Our pump test was around 30 gallons a minute. Looking at the rate, the pumping rate, the rate of decline, extending that rate of decline out a long period of time, 100 days or so, I figure we can get around 40 gallons, maybe 60 gallons a minute out of that well. 50, I think. I'm sorry, I wish I had that now. But 50 to 60 gallons a minute coming out of that well. That's not enough for you guys. The 60 gallons a minute equates to roughly 90,000 gallons a day. So that's not enough for you guys. But what I think we could do here is set 2 more wells about, at the locations I showed on the figure there, they're about 180 feet apart. We want them fairly far apart because we don't want that cone of depression, we don't want them too close together because they add to one another. So if we got 15 feet at the pumping well and we got 5 feet here, and then we got 15 feet of its own, you got 20 feet at both. So we want to get them far enough apart that the water drawdown, we can stay in a safe zone. So, basically what I think is if we can get 3 wells set out there, so 2 more wells for testing purposes, if we can pump all 3 of them at 40 gallons a minute, we'll test them at 30 gallons a minute, but if we can get them, I'll get into the weeds, but, so we can get 40 gallons a minute out of 3 wells, now we're talking about real water. We're talking about 120 gallons a minute. We're looking at about 150,000 gallons a day, okay? But Peter and I have had this conversation, and that, you're looking at for more than that, but 150,000 gallons a day is a heck of a start. And we talked about what do you do from there. Well, the hardest part is getting a water system built in the first place. So you can get a good, consider it an investment, a seed supply. And then if you need another 50,000 gallons down the road, it's a lot easier to add 50,000 gallons a day to 150,000 gallons a day than it is to justify establishing a public water supply on 50,000 gallons a day. So that goes around to a conversation about, well, do we just pull the plug on this site and start looking at, maybe for a rock well somewhere? You could, but, you're going to put yourself back a couple of years anyway, because finding a rock well, I mean, I know anecdotally there's plenty of decent producing rock wells in the area, but finding one that's capable, that's suitable for public water supply from a yield perspective and from a water quality perspective is a kind of a different ball of wax there. We'd be looking for 100,000 gallons a day, 100 gallons a minute, out of a rock well to make it worthwhile.
And you mentioned the quality was very good?
Quality is excellent.
Yeah.
The quality is excellent. And it's, I do a lot of this work, and this is, short of, a deep well on Nantucket, this is really, low, ND, iron, manganese, which is the two that you really look at. While, organics, non-detect, turbidity's low, color's low, to non-detect. The water quality is very good. So you have that going for you there. That said, you're still probably going to need to disinfect. DEP wants to see a residual in the distribution system for growth in the pipes, not more for the distribution system than for the source water. So, but so the if I were to make a recommendation, which I kind of suggested in that report, would be to add 2 more wells. We'll do another 48-hour test on all 3 of them. This is a very sort of an off-the-books kind of test, just to verify what we suspect. If that works, then we can use those wells for the prolonged pumping test, the DEP prolonged pumping test. The thing is, that's going to be a lot longer test, and we're going to need additional monitoring points for DEP's purposes. So that that's sort of a separate item, but these wells would satisfy the requirements for
Maybe 4-inch wells?
yeah. It'd be nice to put bigger ones. We could put a bigger pump in, but I don't think it's worth it. The expense goes up a lot to put bigger wells in here, because we're talking about 140 feet. That's a lot of drilling cost. So every couple inches in diameter you go up, the cost, it's not linear. It goes up a lot. So I think 4 inches would answer the question, and it would allow us the infrastructure to do a DEP prolonged pumping test. At least the pumping infrastructure. We still would have to do 8 or 10, monitoring well points located around the site. That's a whole, that's part of what we had talked about, or what Bob, Beta and I have been.
Would you drill it the same way as the first well, where you take core
Yeah.
samples the entire way so you know exactly what you're getting into?
Yes. I talked to MAR Services today briefly about it. I asked if there's if a geoprobe could get a 4-inch well down 140 feet, and they said no. That would be cheaper. Okay. Probably, Peter, I probably wouldn't take samples for the first 70 feet. I'd just drive it.
Yeah.
And dispose, because it's dry anyway, so who really cares? I mean, and we have data. Yeah. Maybe take a sample every 20 feet or something, just to sort of verify that things are kind of consistent. But then below 70 feet, when we get into the water, I'd want to be doing it. So, we're talking probably, the last one was a week. We're probably looking at a similar amount of time. But it would be more money than the last one, and the pumping test would be more, because we'd be 3 pumps. We need 3 pumps, and so this is, not, I don't want to tell you guys this is cheap and quick, and it's not, but it's a process, and,
You have a separate hole for measuring the drawdown.
Yeah, I
You
have
need
to.
Do you need to create 2 more, one for
At
each
each
well?
location, yeah. But that, we did that, we drilled 3 100, well, the first one was 120 feet, it wasn't quite 140 feet, but, you know, once the second hole went down fast, because we're not sampling at the second hole, we're just driving it down and then setting
Yeah,
the well.
right, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, I figure it'll be about a week, we'd have to drill, you know, 2 4-inches and then 2 offsets. But, you know, that's, you know, 4 offset, 4 offset. So, you know, the offsets would go pretty quick. The problem with the 4-inch well is with the pumping equipment, it basically precludes getting any monitoring equipment down in the pumping well. So we have to have something adjacent to the pumping well to be able to monitor the water level.
So I guess I would ask you to put a price tag on this, and I would ask Peter to tell us where we're getting the money.
Yeah, so, so this is, I haven't sharpened my pencil on this yet, because I just talked to the driller, on my drive here. He just got back to me, about 100 grand. That's for the drilling, that's for the test, and that's for analysis and and then coming back before you guys. Now, again, it might be 85, but I don't want to say 85 and have it come out to 95 and have you guys go, what the hell is this other extra 10 coming from? So, but, you know, we spent 50 grand, over 50 grand just on the drilling of the 2 wells, plus another 15 on the pump, the 48-hour pump test for the one, you know, for the one well. So extrapolating up, multiplying things by 1 point something, you know, just, it's gonna be, I would say a conservative number is 100 grand.
And these 2 wells, 180 feet apart, do they not require any more tree cutting or making room for, can they, you know, is the hole you have now, got a large enough area
Good
around
question.
it where you?
I don't it's certainly nothing like we've done before, like we did to get out there the first time. There are a
Yeah.
few trees. You know, the rig, it was, you know, getting it, there may need to be a few trees cut down, but nothing
You'll
like,
still be going with your track machine.
same machine,
So
yeah, same
we
machine,
don't have
same
to
support truck.
Create a roadway is what I was getting at, to
Yeah.
get to these extra.
Yeah, no, we come straight to that first well, and then go to the right, and then go to the left.
It's up on the ridge. I
It's
mean,
up on the ridge, yeah.
There are some trees there, but it would
Of
probably,
of the first well?
The second.
The further well.
Oh,
where that
okay,
big
yeah,
you
okay.
want
southern-
one
the
that
southern
You
is
said
ridge.
further, I thought you said first.
Yeah,
So,
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so
And
there's a ridge there. There would probably be a half a day worth of clearing, maybe, depending on what they did, but.
Yeah.
it would
yeah,
be-
no, I'm just getting at, I guess, the expense involved with it, and I was down there
Right.
when you had just started, and it was pretty rough getting up there, not a problem for the track machine, but if you're gonna try to get a standard well digger in, a tired machine, a machine with tires, not tired, but, that it was gonna have to take a little bit more. I don't know if
Right.
any more was ever done or not to make the roadway.
yeah, well, I think when we did the pump test, because we had so much rain,
Yeah,
that we had to bring a lot of stone out and in the low spot, really, you know,
yeah.
we had to treat that a bit to get the guy up out of there. And
Here
it's
you're
mostly,
gonna be all up in the high
pickup trucks and
plateau, so there's no need for any of that, so.
yeah, no
Okay.
issues there. That should be no problem at all.
Well,
I guess-
it's
Sorry.
up to this board to decide on, we wanna go ahead with it, and go ahead, but speak to what you're gonna say first, please.
I got some questions for
Yeah,
Peter, if he
sure.
doesn't mind. Let me go, maybe for some of the people at home who've constructed their own houses, when I
Yeah.
say constructed their own houses,
Yep.
they hired a general contractor and whatever, and
Yep.
one of the first things you do is you put in a well, and what
Yep.
wells people put in are artesian wells. And, you know, the rig comes in and goes 400 feet, in a day and a half, they're gone.
Yep.
Explain the difference, and usually that's a 6-inch well that
Yep.
goes down to bedrock and then
Yep.
drills into the bedrock, sets it, and then they come in and drill the hole down to wherever they find a water-producing zone. Explain the difference on on this gravel pack well, if you want to use that term. In other
Sure.
words, it's nothing but loose dirt that they're drilling into, which is not very difficult.
That's correct. It is not, so there are 2 general kinds of wells. The bedrock well that you you know, that you referred to in the beginning, and then an overburden well, or a gravel well. So the bedrock well is the equipment they use. The drillers don't care what they're drilling through. They don't need to know.
No.
They just want to pound down. They will pound down, they'll drive a casing at the same time, all the way down, drive that casing into the top of the rock to seal it off from the water that's above. And then just hammer down until the hammer drops. Or as they're blowing out the rock dust, they notice that they're getting water out. They're happy if they get 5 to 6 gallons a minute. Okay? That's all a house needs. They'll do a little bit of water quality testing. Does it have iron? Does it have bacteria or something? You know, and then they're on their way.
Looking for volume, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, they're
They
looking
don't
for,
check for quality
right,
until later.
till later, but they,
Yeah, and then all the equipment comes in the cellar.
yes.
Yeah,
What we're trying to find is a well that can produce 10 to 20 times the amount of water they're typically looking for, okay? Bedrock wells are not uncommon. They're common in a lot of places. They're common in Connecticut. They're becoming slightly more common in Massachusetts for municipal scale water supply. Finding a 100-gallon-a-minute bedrock well is very difficult. The challenge with the bedrock well also is because you're pulling water out of fractures, you don't really know where those fractures go, and so you don't know where the source of that water is. So long-term water quality is always a little bit of a question with a bedrock well, because that fracture can go a mile underneath a gas station or a rest area on the interstate. So you don't really know where it's coming from. So there's always a little bit of risk in that with a bedrock well. In an overburden well, a gravel well, what we're trying to do is drill in and find sands and gravels that are coarse enough and have pore spaces where the water can flow through from all sides, flow into the well. But to do that, we have to be very careful, and we have to be knowledgeable about the material that we're drilling into. So that means we have to pull samples out at every, interval. These are, 5-foot or 8-foot intervals, and it used to be, 1.5 feet every 5 feet you'd pull out. But we've decided over time that we need more data. We need more information on where the good sands and gravels are. The problem with sands and gravel wells, particularly in this part of the world, is they're all left behind by glaciers. Now, and we don't know what it looks like. So if we're not careful about how we drill, we could miss a zone of clay or silt or lousy material, or we could miss good material, because if we're not paying attention, if we're not being real diligent about keeping track of the materials we're drilling through. And that's every time they drill 5 or 10 feet, they pull that material out in a core, and then we lay it on the ground and we look at it and we figure out what it is. The nice thing about sand and gravel wells is in some places around here we can get 1,000 gallons a minute. Some wells can do 1,500 gallons a minute. We're not blessed with that here, unfortunately. But the materials that we encountered in some other part of the state where they weren't 20 feet thick, 25 feet thick, and it was 70 feet thick, that material would yield a heck of a lot of water. We're trying to find a sand and gravel well that can yield good water, good volumes of water, good quality of water. And the nice thing about sand and gravel wells is the mathematics for understanding where the water's coming from is fairly well established. So we can look at, when we do a pump test, or we pump the well, we can look at how the other wells around it respond, and we can know with a high degree of certainty where the water that well is pumping is coming from. And so then we can protect that area. We call that the wellhead protection zone, or groundwater, or zone 2 in Massachusetts, or wellhead protection district, or groundwater protection district. You can call it whatever you want. But we have a very good handle on where that zone is, so we can protect it.
So, when you're constructing one of these wells,
Yeah.
do they put a liner down the side?
So they drill it with a liner,
Yeah.
Okay, with a casing.
Yeah,
Then they set the well down inside of it, and then they pull that casing back out to expose the well and the well screen. So the well screen is engineered based on the grain size of the sands that it's set in, sands and gravels that it's set in.
okay, so this, the well that was constructed
Yep.
over there,
Yep.
the screen has been set in place.
Yep,
And was that pipe totally, or the casing totally pulled out?
Yep.
Okay, so if we were to go back there and we could do a cross-section, it's possible that the only thing we're gonna, well, not possible, is, as a matter of fact, the pump would be there, the screen would be there, and the pipe would be there.
yep.
All right, what happens if the pump breaks? How do you get the pump out of there, out of the hole that's all caved in now?
Oh, well, I'm sorry, there's well casing.
Okay.
So the well screen and the well
Oh.
casing is one whole piece of, you know,
Gotcha.
in that case, in these wells, it's PVC
Oh,
with a
okay.
stainless steel well screen at the bottom.
All right, so when you do find the water-producing zone.
Yes.
That's when you lift the casing up 7 or 8 feet, however
Right.
big the screen is.
You set the
And that
well-
screen's now exposed to the zone that's producing water.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so, if we go back there today, the casing's there.
Yep.
All right.
Well,
No.
so there's two things. So there's the drilling casing,
Right,
and then there's the well pipe, okay? So
okay,
in our case, the well is set at 130 feet.
yeah,
So we have a 10-foot screen
yeah,
and 120 feet of PVC casing, of PVC well pipe, okay? That's all, so that holds the
and
hole
that's
open.
4 inch.
Yes,
Okay, and then what you do is, then you set down probably a 1-inch pipe with your 3 or 4 inch pump.
that's
And
the
okay, so it's
problem.
like, what, is that like Schedule 80 pipe, the casing? Must be fairly strong,
The casing,
yeah, the casing.
for a 4-inch well, it's Schedule 40. Because
Schedule 40,
it's
okay.
so small, it's strong enough to
Oh,
hold the,
okay,
yeah.
It's threaded.
all right.
yeah.
You-
It's threaded in 10-foot sections.
Okay, okay,
So when they drill the initial well, they drill the 6-inch casing down.
yeah,
Then they drill the 4-inch core sampler down.
right,
So they advance both of them at the
Yep.
same time.
Right.
And then once they get to where they want, they take all the 4-inch coring out and they install the 4-inch PVC that's threaded. And
Okay.
once the 4-inch PVC and the screen is in place, they remove the 6-inch outer casing.
Yep.
so the proposal is to drill 3 more 4-inch holes.
Yes, with
And,
two.
and,
more.
and
Two more.
the, included in that is, the first 70 feet, you're not gonna do any core sampling.
Correct.
Because that core sampling takes time, because you go down
Yep,
eight
slows
feet,
everything down.
12 feet or whatever.
Yep.
Then pound in core sample, it's like,
Yeah.
it's like.
Well, the time is dropping the core sample,
Exactly,
pulling it all the way
exactly.
back out, dropping it
Right,
back
right,
down, pulling
okay.
it all the way back.
All
Yeah.
right, so, and again, I'm the one who's kind of a little bit frugal here. So the cost of the second wells are gonna be less money than the cost of the first well, because we're not doing any sample cores.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Well, until you hit groundwater. You're gonna do
Well,
sample
no.
cores for probably 45, 50
The
feet.
4-inch wells, that's correct. For the offset wells, which I think is what you're referring to?
Yeah, the offset wells, yeah.
I won't,
Because that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do offset wells to determine
No.
how, because aren't we looking for determining exactly how thick this pancake of water is? That's down there?
yes, so we have one well and an offset well in now, right?
Right,
So we're basically gonna copy and paste that in 2 different locations.
okay.
2 different, so we'll have the same setup essentially.
It'll be 180 feet this way and 180 feet that way?
Exactly.
All right, so what are the chances are that you're gonna be in the same aquifer?
The chances are excellent.
Okay.
The chances are slightly less excellent that it'll be the same. I mean, that the thickness will be the same, the materials will be the same, because, you know, if we knew what it was like down there, we'd know exactly where to drill, and we wouldn't, there would be no.
I'm not trying to be a pain here,
No, I
but
know.
how far away was the first well that we drilled that
It
was
was like
unsuccessful?
700 feet,
Okay,
800 feet
okay.
away.
All right, so again, from a geological point of view, you think
Totally
this
different.
location is
Yeah.
much better? And-
Yeah, there's a
and-
big valley in between them, you know, there were 2
Yeah.
separate ridges. The
Yes.
first one on the northern ridge, we didn't hit any material
Okay.
down to bedrock. Then there's the valley that we drive across, you know, you have to drive across
Sure,
to get to
sure.
the second site.
Right.
And a second ridge, and that second ridge, as I believe, is a different geologic feature completely
Okay.
from the first one. And so what I can't tell you is that we're gonna have 25 feet of good saturated material there, or 25 feet of good aquifer material at both locations. There might be more, might be less, I don't know.
So what we're, excuse my expressions, what we're chasing here is to determine, and I refer to it as a pancake, is what's the diameter of the pancake? The pancake is what holds the water, and then what's the thickness?
Yep.
Because the broader and the thicker, then the greater amount of water that will be there.
Yep.
And like you said, you're confident that if we do these 180 apart, it's going to give us a real good picture of the size and the volume of what's down there.
Yep.
And in reading your report, I misread it in the beginning, but when you went from 25 gallons per minute to 30 gallons a minute, there was a drop.
Yep.
Well, it wasn't a severe drop, and then it stayed even.
Yep.
Which is the good news.
Yep.
Because if you had your, how many gallon a minute pumps are those that are down, that you're putting in there?
Well, I mean,
It's limited, I understand.
it's limited because, you know, the pump, the gallon per minute pump depends on how much water it's pushing, how high it has to push.
Right, right.
And as the water level in the well drops,
Right,
you know, the curve makes I'm trying to do it this way, you know, so you.
Yeah, the curve
So
is
the
fine, I
volume,
understand that, yeah.
the rate drops as the pressure goes up. So as the water level drops in the well.
right.
Which it does in response to pumping, the rate goes down a little bit because the pump doesn't have the oomph to keep pumping that volume of water out.
Plus you have a 3-inch pump and a 4-inch well, so it's not, so
Right, so
you
what,
have a
I guess,
real
what's the
small area.
limitations of the pumps that you use?
They don't have the horsepower to pump a lot of water because you know, we're trying to fit a small, you know, a pump
Right,
in this well.
because the pump's down, well, you said 140 feet,
The pump was down 115 feet.
15 feet.
Yeah,
What kind of
but-
static level did you have in the pipe?
We started, it was, the water was down 73, and,
Okay.
and we don't actually know what the pumping water level in the well was, because we couldn't get anything around, the pump was so tight to the
Right, but can't you
casing.
use the beam that kicks back?
There's no space to get anything down there. And, you know, when the water, my guess is the water's probably down 108 to 110 feet
Okay.
in the pumping well.
Yeah.
And that doesn't concern me that much, because the well is not engineered yet.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna be, I don't expect it to be particularly efficient. That's what was the benefit of using the offset well there. We
Sure.
measured all the water levels in the offset well. So that is much more representative of how the aquifer
Of
would
what's happening there,
respond.
so you were
Yeah.
then you were able to get the static levels, and then when pump
Exactly.
came on, then you could get the drop down.
Yep,
And all those numbers look promising to you.
they did, yeah.
Okay, now,
Yeah.
again, I got a little bit of knowledge here, which makes me dangerous, is on a rock well, the DEP determines that you have to stay within limits of the production of the well. In other words, if you're gonna do a rock well, you can only pump it 18 hours a day. And also what they tell you is that if you're gonna determine the safe yield of that well,
Yep.
that I forget, I don't know, it's 75% or 67% of whatever it is. So in other words, you go there and then you pump the well, you pump it as much as it'll go and maintain the static level, but of course with a rock well, if it's 500 feet deep, you can only pump it down 75% of its depth. So you can't go you can't have the water level go any lower than that, and then you determine your safe level if you're trying to maximize it by getting it down there and then equalize how many gallons are coming out of the pipe and make sure that water doesn't move, then you gotta hold it for, is it 24 hours or 40
yeah.
hours?
It's a 1/4 inch of drawdown over 24 hours is
Okay, all right,
considered
so you
the
gotta hold it for
stabilization.
24 hours.
Yep,
Do those same rules apply to a gravel pack?
they do,
They do?
yep.
Okay, so if we're getting 40 gallons a minute, really all we can do is pump it 18 hours a day, and we can only,
Well, that rule doesn't apply.
it doesn't.
So, no,
okay.
but what they'll do, so if we test the well site, all right, and we test it at 100 gallons a minute, well, let me step back. Testing, well, the testing, if we run the pump test the prolonged DEP-approved pump test on test wells, not the permanent wells, we can do some calculations, and DEP will approve the yield of the production wells at double the rate of the pump test. Okay? So, and then what they'll do, so let's just say we run the pump test at 50 gallons a minute. We get our analysis, we look at it and say, all right, we think we can, we're gonna shoot for the DEP-approved yield of 100 gallons a minute. All right? DEP says, that's fine, yep, I trust you, this looks good. Then when they issue the approval, they will allow you to set a pump in the well at 1.5 times the approved pumping rate. So we could set a 150 gallon a minute pump.
Yep.
The reason for that is they presume that effective operation is 16 hours a day, 16 on, 8 off. So they let you get your yield. So
that's two-thirds.
if our gallons is 100, if 100,000 gallons, 100 gallons a minute is 144,000 gallons a day.
Right.
So they say you can get that 144,000 gallons out of in 16 hours, which is 1.5 times.
Okay. All right, that's a fair trade-off.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
But you can't pump more than 144,000 gallons. I mean, people do, but,
Yeah.
because they have emergencies or they have a particularly dry period and they need to go beyond their safe yield.
yeah, or it's July and people want to water their flowers.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you better be prepared with an explanation.
Exactly, yeah. All right, okay. Obviously, we've got to make a determination here of risk and reward.
Yep.
Of the money that's going to be spent, and
Yep.
there's nothing better, and I refer to it as holy water, because this is holy water, is you basically do nothing to it. And that's a huge savings, huge, because when you go to some of these, just go to Southbridge, they got great water, but they got like a $27 million treatment plant there. So that's the last thing that we really want to get into. We'd like to maybe, required to infuse some chlorine here and there, but that's reasonable and relatively inexpensive. But if we got to start treating it for, for some major chemicals, or if not chemicals,
Minerals.
just natural
Things, yeah.
minerals that occur, whether it's
Let
uranium
me
or
just
something like
caution you,
that.
because I don't want to find, I don't want to be in the hot seat in a year or whatever we get through. I mean, when we do the prolonged pump test, there's a lot more sampling that gets done during that, a higher frequency, and, we're pumping it for a longer period of time, and there's a lot more compounds that we will analyze for. It's expensive, so there was no, at this point, we did screening analysis. So for the typical stuff that we'd expect to find,
Yeah,
but I can't sit here right now and say that after the prolonged pumping test, that I can guarantee you the water will not be, that it'll be perfect, because we don't know. I mean,
no, of course
so-
not, of course not. I have some experience with the DEP well testing chemicals that they're out there.
Yep.
And it's, even our own town, the well tests that they require for when you're constructing a new home are almost identical to public water supply, which is a $700 to $800 test.
yeah, this is many times that,
So why would it be many times more than that?
because public health, you guys are, you'll be a public water supply in charge
I'm
with,
familiar with it.
Yeah, so-
Again, I.
well, because there's a lot more compounds that they
What,
require.
SOS,
Synthetic organics, yeah, there's,
VOCs and SOCs. How much more is after that?
radionuclides.
Oh, yeah,
There's,
sure. Yeah,
there's,
gross alpha and, yeah, again,
yeah.
under $800. I don't know where you're going, but again, I just know what I'm experienced to.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to play a bad guy
Yeah, no,
here,
no,
but
I
I'm just
understand,
giving
I
you
understand.
facts.
And I can, we can shop around labs, but, the good labs, that we typically work with, those samples can be, $2,500 per round for the entire suite. Not all of them you have to do
No, no.
there's a lot of the inorganics and stuff and metals and things which we'll do every 48 hours. And then there's another set you do at the midpoint and the final, and then a whole suite of everything you do at the end. So, I mean, sampling gets very expensive. In the scheme of things, it's not a lot, but it's not as much as drilling a production well.
Yeah,
But it's, but it's not chump change, which is why, we'd spent $500 on sampling so far, and,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
right now,
yeah.
everything looks great.
So is your recommendation to take us, to take us through the prolonged pump test, DEP pump test with these next two wells, or is it to drill the next two wells? and then
Yeah,
kinda
so-
just repeat the test we just did?
Yeah, so Peter,
So to
I think we
further-
take an iterative approach here, because, you know, it unfortunately isn't, you know, 70 feet of really good, good materials, and we got more water than we can know what to do with. You know, in which case I would say, yeah, let's just go jump right to the prolonged pump test phase and go, you know, I think that's gonna be an expensive test. All the additional wells that we have to
Right.
put in for monitoring purposes, it's gonna be expensive. So I think the prudent thing to do is to take one more iterative step here, get these other locations drilled, do some preliminary testing, similar to what we've just done, take a look at that, and if it says, yeah, this supports getting 80 to 90 gallons a minute combined, or 100 gallons a minute combined out of this site, then we sit down and we talk about, is that worth it again?
And Peter, so if we're gonna drill 3 wells, we're actually gonna do 6 holes? Because you're gonna do a monitoring hole for each well?
Yeah, 6 total, we have 2 in place already,
Yeah,
so 4 more.
oh, okay, all right, so we're only gonna drill two
Right,
Two of each.
wells, 180
Right.
apart.
We're gonna
Right.
drill 2 of each wells. We're gonna drill
Correct,
2
yes.
4-inch and 2 monitoring wells
Right,
next to it.
and Paul's question was, funding,
So on
where's it coming from?
July 1st, they re-upped our loan from the state,
Loan or grant money?
grant money, sorry. So since July 1st, I believe we spent $80,000.
I think that's
Ballpark.
about right. Yeah, I mean,
So-
I don't know if you're including the roadway stuff and the trees and that.
Right.
It's probably more than that then,
Okay, so we should have,
because you'll be getting another bill.
okay, so we're probably right around 100, which would leave us 100 to do this next step. Before we decide to do it, I think we need to, I think the board can decide that tonight if they choose to, but before we actually move forward, I think we should have a follow-up meeting with DEP and talk to them about what's going on and what we found. Because we did submit, I think 6 or 7 tasks to them to use that $200,000, and this kind of varies from it a little bit. So before we move forward and spend their money and look for a reimbursement, I think we should get them on board to say, this is what our plan, this is what we found, this is what our plan is moving forward to get more information,
Right.
get them on board, get them to approve it, and then just take this next step. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we don't have enough information to say yes or no 100%, right? We have just enough to keep us from saying, okay, we're gonna walk away, and we don't have enough to say, all right, let's just do the prolonged pump test and move forward and develop what we found.
Right.
So we're still in this middle ground, and again, I don't think we're ready to abandon that piece of property yet. It's still, if we can get 170,000 gallons per day, and hopefully that's a safe yield that
Yep.
Peter's put together, and maybe it'll be 200 or 225. As Peter's laid out, it's a good start for our system. After the overlook comes on, after Berry Corner Road is done, and after the school loop is completed, is 170,000 gallons per day enough to support the whole system? No. But in looking at how our system is and how it's laid out, we could separate it where we use Southbridge water to still supply the 2 service areas as that initial line was designed, which is probably gonna be 80 to 100,000 gallons per day. And we use this to supply the the southern portion of our water line that's been installed. And we bring this public water supply well up to work slowly and get it going there. And then, as Peter said, we start looking around other areas of town to find wells to supplement what we currently have, and just grow the system till we can supply water to the entire town.
Right.
But the way we are, I don't think we're ever gonna find, unfortunately, one well that's just gonna give us enough supply to handle the entire town at this point.
Not in the constraints that you're operating under with the Army Corps and the restriction on use on that land that, under 529, elevation 529. So it's, you're kind of you're a little bit hamstrung by some of these things. And
How quickly do you think the DEP would come in?
So,
To meet
So-
with DEP, we could
so-
probably, in the next couple of weeks.
yeah,
probably
so
send
Peter,
them.
let me also, this is a little bit non-traditional. We would probably want to strategize a little bit of how we present this to the DEP. This is perfectly within the context of, say, phase one of the prolonged pumping test. You know, this is what you do, all right? So if this was a site with one big well, we would put the well, we test it, we're at the spot we are now, but we have a lot of confidence we can get whatever, 300, 400,000 gallons a day. We're not there here, unfortunately. But what we are is saying, all right, well, what would be the next step? Let's put another couple of wells in and see if we can support a multiple well system. That is really conceptually no different than us going in and installing a test well and testing it prior to going through all the effort of all the other wells and writing the request for pump test approval to DEP. So this is sort of the initial, we can think of this as the initial phase of the prolonged pump test. We just aren't going to commit to that second phase of the prolonged pump test until we know how this initial phase works.
Okay, so the wells that you're gonna be installing now can be used for the prolonged pump
That would
test.
be the intention, yeah. I mean, at
Right,
the rate
right,
we're
we'd have
looking
to-
at pumping, I think they'll be
Okay.
fine.
So we'd have to install other monitoring wells to encompass the area, whatever you work out with DEP, but
Right.
we would not have to take these 4-inch wells and drill 6-inch wells just to do the prolonged
Right,
pump test.
right. At another site, the 8-inch well would go in at the same time the other 8 or 10 monitoring points would go in. That would all be done all at once. For us, we're doing the conceptual, the 8-inch well first, we see how that pumps, and then if it looks good, then we'll go to the part B, which is install and go forward with the others. So this is, you know, if it helps, we think of this as sort of the initial phase of the prolonged pump test process. So we don't have to commit to the whole prolonged pump test and all the other monitoring wells at this time. I guess that's kind of how I'm phrasing it.
If we jump forward and finally go with, and everything works out well, and what does our completed well look like or consist of? Is it 4-inch, 6-inch, or 8-inch?
That'd be 8,
It'd be 8.
yeah.
Okay, and we could put a much larger pump in there, but what you told us, or what I've read, is you can only get
Yeah.
so many gallons per minute when you turn
Yep.
that pump on, so we're better off having several holes and several pumps with lower gallons per minute by these pumps.
Right, because you're not gonna get all the water you want out of a single location, because the water is gonna drop too far in the pumping well. There's, so we spread that drawdown out around, across multiple wells, which is not, it's a fairly common thing. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard of well fields, you've been to
Well
places
fields,
where the 50, 60 well points driven in the swamp that might only be 20 feet thick, but because you're spreading the drawdown out over, 50 or 60 points, you can actually get the water out of that. That's totally different setup, but multiple wells is a very common, it's a well field.
So do you need a motion from us?
Yeah,
but-
yes.
I got another question here.
Yeah.
Is the water producing zone?
Yep.
That elevation is where relative to the bottom of the reservoir over there? Or the,
So I don't know where the bottom, I don't know the bathymetry of the reservoir, so I don't know.
okay.
But, I think we figured that the elevation of that is probably 70 feet below the lake.
70 feet?
The bottom of it is around 70, so
Okay.
between like 45 and 70 feet
Right.
below the
Right.
bottom of the lake.
Because,
But we don't know how deep the lake is.
But we don't know how deep the lake is, yeah.
okay.
So-
Oh, we don't know how deep
So
it is.
we encountered groundwater at 73 feet.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we consider that 73 feet is the same elevation as the surface water in
Okay.
Buffinville, plus or minus a foot or two depending.
Right,
Probably pretty
And
close.
then our water-bearing structure is at 115 feet, so that we are probably 45 feet below the surface water
okay.
of Buffinville. But we don't know what the depth of I don't know if the lake is 15 feet, 30, I mean, it depends which area, but in that area where we are, again, I've been in it, but I haven't been in it enough to know what the depth is, if it's 20 feet or 40 feet, or, I don't think, I don't know if there's any spots that are that deep, but.
But, you know, again, a lot of lay people are out there and say, oh geez, we're gonna be drinking water from Buffums. Well, the medium that you talk about, the overburden there, if water passes through there, what's it, 4 feet, 5 feet, and then the water's clean? As far as,
Yeah,
as a filter?
I mean,
I'm not saying that's what, you know, that, I'm making the point about, it's okay
Yeah.
to drink lake water, but, that's one of the, I guess,
yeah,
There's no one's
the
out
lake
there.
bed and, you know, and the aquifer materials are very effective filters. You know, it's, you know, groundwater is preferred over surface water. Most places, from a quality standpoint, it's much, the water quality of groundwater, with the exception of pH, is almost always much better.
And the prolonged pump test will make sure that the groundwater is not under
Right.
the influence of
it's under
surface
the
water.
influence, right?
So we'll
Right.
make sure that it's not just surface water bypassing through and we're just
Right.
draining it. We're just pulling it directly from the pond.
Right.
So I think if the board's interested in moving forward, then yes, I think a motion would be great, and I can set up the follow-up meetings to go kind of talk with Peter some more, get our plan of attack, readjust what our remaining tasks are under the grant, and then go meet with the DEP and run it by them and see what their thoughts are and make sure they're on board before we do anything.
Right. And I think the meeting with the DEP, because it's their money that we're spending,
Yes.
is, I don't think it hurts to kind of put our arm around them, because we look back at the last $356,000 expenditure, is if the DEP knew where they were drilling, they would have stopped it immediately.
We would hope so, yes.
Yeah, so we don't want to have that happen again.
Correct.
So we're putting an extra pair of gloves on when we go to the wood stove here.
Right.
So, and the thing is, Peter, I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, is that we instruct our superintendent here to set up a meeting with DEP as soon as possible. And again, I'm in favor of going forward with this, yeah, as long as we bring the people in around who obviously are paying for this.
One of you
and
like to
they
make
agree
a
with-
motion to that effect?
Yes, make that a motion.
And subject to DEP's approval, or how Peter does, so it's not 100% go ahead yet, but it's permission to go ahead
We
as
got a
much
compound
as
mo-
we're able.
a compound
Okay,
mo-
we got a
motion.
meeting, motion on the floor, do I have a second, please?
Does that cover everything you need?
Yes, that's great.
Second.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, any other discussion, or we beat it to death?
No, I think we beat it pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
So that,
Aye.
that gives everybody
So be in touch.
motion.
Yeah,
Peter,
yes, definitely.
what
I'll,
timeframe, well, assuming
Yeah.
Peter gets to the DEP relatively soon, say in the next week or two, what time period are we talking about for you doing this? And secondly, is snow gonna hamper the exploration or not?
No.
Well,
Yeah.
so it's
Christmas Eve.
it's driller availability, and I haven't, I don't know. So I don't know, hopefully it's within, 6 weeks. If it's frozen solid, that's fine. Wet, sloppy snow could be a challenge, just getting the equipment up to that site. So hopefully they're wrong about the winter projections.
And you're gonna be using track machines?
Yeah, but, some of the support equipment is pickups
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah, I understand that, yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Very good, thank you very much.
thanks for coming, Pete.
I'll call Peter tomorrow about availability, just so we have that info.
Great,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
Continuing on, I guess we have to debate between Osterman and Charlton Propane, and our choices.
Well, yes, so in the past, we've used Osterman propane, the town had an agreement with Osterman, I believe the fixed price was $1.29 per gallon. That contract expired June 30th of 2018, so, Osterman is currently on the state bid list at a, unit price plus, I think it's 25 cents per gallon, say, yeah, whatever the propane price that's advertised that the state puts out there. So we're currently, I think the last delivery we got was about $1.49, and I think that when we called and checked, the current daily price was $1.51. And, the town moved to a different contract with Charlton Oil, who gave them a 1-year contract not to exceed $1.50 per gallon. Luckily, we own our own tanks, so we can choose whichever propane company we want to use. But because we get a bi-weekly delivery, I think we should pick one or the other and stick to them and not try and play them against each other on a delivery-by-delivery basis.
I
Just
totally
for
agree with
knowledge.
that, so.
I have to share is, in contracts with gas companies I've done in the past, is, it's, Selkirk is the known benchmark for propane,
That's what's in the state bid list, yes.
is Selkirk.
Principal averages, Monday Selkirk, New York prices published on
Exactly.
page 1 of the.
So then what you negotiate is amount of money over Selkirk.
So we can't negotiate with Osterman because they have the state bid list. They're not gonna enter into a contract with us. We either take them.
Okay, so what's it, I'm sorry, Peter, what's the Selkirk? Oh,
Selkirk plus
over.
20.2459 cents per gallon.
Yeah, okay,
And Charlton Oil has a straight not to exceed $1.50 per gallon price.
yeah.
So they're $1.50 per gallon, which some days it might
It
be
says
more.
not to exceed, it could be less.
But it's not based on anything. So
Yeah.
I don't think it will be less. I think it's gonna be $1.50 per gallon.
Yeah.
So-
I'm just telling you, is what, because we buy gas during the summertime,
Yes.
and that's when they need customers, so they do extra things to make sure that they have your business. I mean, I remember a year and a half ago, it was $1.14, $1.08 that we were paying.
Right.
But it was relative to Selkirk.
And that's the way the state bid price works, so.
Okay.
I just didn't, again, it's a change in how we're gonna be getting billed, so I just wanted to put it in front of you, and it's, I think if you were to average out the Selkirk price, it might average out to around $1.50 per gallon throughout the year.
No, excuse me. You called Osterman's to get a price of what their street price was today?
No.
Their last delivery we got was 146,
Okay,
and then when I called to see if they would do a contract that day, it was 151.
for the contract,
For the
okay.
No,
deal-
not for the contract,
for-
that price.
For the
That price for the day,
state
if you're gonna
bid,
do a contract,
our price under the state bid was $1.51
that day,
that day,
right. But but the last billing, it was $1.46.
because that's what it was on that day when they delivered.
Right, right, right. So is Ralph gonna, or Charlton Oil, is Ralph gonna follow the same thing?
No, I believe it's just a straight $1.50 per gallon.
Okay, because I heard not to exceed $1.50.
Again, I haven't seen the contract per se, but that's the language that was
Just-
told to me.
Just for the benefit of the doubt, is, I think you should check it with Charlton Oil to make sure that's what they mean, that it's a maximum of $1.50, and if it's less, that it will be less.
Okay.
Just to be fair with them, because if we're gonna assume it's a straight $1.50, then, maybe we're cheating ourselves, or maybe we just blew a great deal.
That's,
Again, go either way.
you'll be able to tell in February, I guess,
Again, right, and
based on what the market.
if Charlton Oil is willing to cap it and then follow a certain value over Selkirk, then it would be crazy not to take it.
Well, how about if we made a motion that we go with Charlton Oil with a price not to exceed 150 per gallon? And if he finds out that it's different, then the motion's no.
No, I don't want to do that again. I'd prefer not to do it that way. I'd like to just get the information, then we can all make the decision based on solid information. That's, because what we don't know is what the loan number is. We know what the maximum high number is,
Well, we'll
which would be great.
never know what the low
Yeah,
number is.
yeah.
We'll never know what the low number is.
Yeah, it will be if he gives it to where he limits it to sell a certain amount of money over Selkirk, not to exceed $1.50.
But Charlton Oil's not doing Selkirk.
I didn't get a copy of the contract, I just went by what I was told from the selectman's office, that it's not to exceed, so.
I guess you find out.
I'll get a
Yeah.
copy of the contract and see what the exact
The
language
low end.
is, what
That's what
spells
the
it
low
out.
end is.
That way there we'll know if it's a true not to exceed, and we'll see something less than $1.50, or if we'll just plan on $1.50 And if you look at what the propane market does between the summer and the winter,
It's huge.
it'll probably average out, and we'll probably end up paying around the same amount, would be my guess,
Do we have much propane use in the summer?
yes.
It's because of,
I mean, we haven't been using heat. I think the heat was just turned on last week, and our last propane bill was $1,200 that you approved today.
Sue's smirking.
So, yes, so it's every 2 weeks. We still get that same 2-week delivery, and it was $1,200 for 2 weeks.
so where are we using the propane?
Hot water, I'm not sure where they use it in the lab.
Is the outside generator propane, or is that,
No, it's
diesel.
diesel.
it's a lot of, every other week, $1,200?
Yes, they're still coming every other week.
Took a break in the summertime.
It was lower than that.
Yeah, it was, a timeframe we didn't have.
We can pull, I mean, I think, we have a track, we could chart it and graph it
Yeah,
to see
okay.
how our usage
All right,
comes
more
and goes.
information.
But I'll get more information for that for our next meeting.
Because of not having everyone here, I think we should put off the performance review.
We still have one item under new business.
Yeah, we've,
Okay,
I know we've skipped around a little bit. So there's a drinking water supply protection grant program that's out there. And it actually applies to what we're looking to do in purchasing the property by Buffinville. So what it is, a 50% reimbursement in the cost to acquire the land for protection areas are identified as planned future water supply wells or intakes. The eligible expenses are the acquisition of the land, the recording fees, title research and certification, property survey, and they have a baseline documentation report and land management plan. So, the only cost we have to put forward is to have an appraisal done as part of the application. So the appraisals, the applications are due November 16th, and we have to have a commercial appraisal of the land done as part of the application. That's all, that's the only amount of money we have to spend going into to apply for the grant.
and how do they define commercial,
Well, it just says appraisal,
okay,
so
all right, a known commercial appraiser,
a licensed appraiser.
okay.
Approximate
They
cost.
get different designations.
I did not get, no, they just said the application just said licensed appraiser,
Okay,
and, I did not call around, because I'm not really familiar with any licensed appraisers in the area to get an approximate cost of what that would be. But, we do have other funds still set aside from the other grants that we were given that we can use to fund this.
I think we should go forward with it.
Okay. And again, the only concern is, I mean, depending what we get for information with the next round of testing, whenever that happens, our purchase and sale agreement on the property expires on December 31st, and we have a 6-month, we have the ability to renew it for 6 months, or extend it for 6 months.
Sure, good.
So hopefully, we can do that and get this grant going. I went and sat in a meeting for this grant, and the person there facilitating it said they're gonna try and have the results of the grant applications done by February of 2019. So we should know fairly soon.
So is it somewhat of is it a bid between other applicants? Or is they just gonna give it to whoever applies?
No, they have, I forget what the amount was. The maximum reimbursement is $300,000 per applicant. I think they have 1.2 million in eligible funds to distribute
Okay, so
amongst
it
the
can end up
applicants.
pretty good if someone's gonna spend 600,000 for a piece of land.
Right,
And you
and
have
I think
4 of those.
our project's fairly small, we're only, I mean, with all the additional expenses, our max total cost might be 150, so our 50% reimbursement would only be $75,000, so. And again, in part of meeting with the DEP in the next couple of weeks to talk about drilling, about the wells, would also be to talk about this grant program. Make sure that they think that we qualify for it and we're a good applicant, try and get a letter of support from them as well to go along with the application. So hopefully I can put that together. I don't know what to do for a not-to-exceed number for the appraisal, but if the board could make a motion, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with with what an appraisal might cost to
Yeah, they're
get
all
to,
over the board.
so,
This one seems simple, vacant land, I mean, yeah,
but
yeah, I don't know, I'd say 4,500, and that's high,
for an appraisal,
yeah. I got a friend of mine going through a divorce, just spent 7,000, but someone else would have done it for 2,200. So, you know, like I said, they're all over.
Didn't we use someone down, at Stearns before, for the pump station? I thought we had to have something appraised before, because we had the town's appraisal and I don't know, maybe we didn't use somebody then, but I thought we had.
I guess there's a difference between having a broker do
Yeah, no broker.
comparables
Yeah.
and a true appraisal. I mean, I suppose that when you do a true commercial appraisal for a property, they're expensive.
They can be, they
Yes.
can be,
No,
but
they're
again,
very
it's a
expensive.
competitive field out there. I wouldn't wanna see us spend more than $4,500, but I've been wrong before.
No, I would hope it's just vacant land, so hopefully it'd be a lot easier
Yeah,
and less than that. So again, if the board can make a motion for me, to approve me to get the appraisal done with a not to exceed number, I'll start that moving forward and get the application done so we can submit it. I believe the application needs to be signed by both yourselves and the Board of Selectmen, so I'm planning on going to the Board of Selectmen tomorrow to give them an update on what Peter Newton's report showed and where you plan on going, so they'll be in the loop of what we have going on with the property, and just to keep them informed of what's happening, so.
I'll make that motion to, hire an appraisal not to exceed $4,500.
Second.
Any other discussion on it? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. I can get you some names, Peter.
Thank you, that'd be great.
I hope your estimate is really high, because
Well, like I said,
I'm thinking about half of that,
You
but
think it's low? I think it's, because it's bare land, because we're not looking to go to a bank for funding, hopefully we can get it done for that amount.
yeah, a lot less, I think a lot less, but we'll see.
Okay.
school loop oversight.
Well, we covered that with Chris. That's what Chris was here, when he was talking about having an engineer on site to oversee the construction.
I guess I interpreted oversight as something that was neglected, something that was left out.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, no, more so having an engineer from
Yeah,
this.
yeah, oversee it, so. Carpenter Hill Road, Chris
You
talked about that
approved
as well,
Yes,
so.
you approved the funding for.
Superintendent performance review, Mr. Lemansky, and probably myself and Jen too, would just as soon wait for a full board to be here, but
How long can we wait on that?
I don't think it's a
Couple
big issue.
years.
Yeah. Again, I don't think HR is gonna come down on us too bad, so
Slap our hands.
maybe, but.
And you did your self-appraisal, so we're gonna base it off of the rest of our opinions, right?
Yes,
Okay.
okay.
so superintendent report,
Superintendent.
quickly, I mean, I think Chris hit on a bunch of stuff. The Berry Corner Road, they did start blasting this week. There was some confusion up there with buses being able to pass where we had the road closed for one lane and local traffic only. In a certain areas of H-foot road with one lane and equipment working, it's pretty narrow for the buses to get by with the telephone poles on the other side of the road, so. A couple of days, the one bus didn't make it and some residents were upset, and rightfully so, because there was some confusion there on everyone's part. So I believe that's been squared away. The contractor's working with the bus company a little bit better to make sure that there's enough room for the buses to pass. And as I said, they have started blasting this week in the Southbridge side of H-foot road where they're encountering the most ledge. So Rock Splitters is up there, they're drilling about 100, they're drilling holes probably 2 by 2 square in the pathway of where they're gonna be digging the trench. 2
Is that
feet.
that thing with the, like?
The black cone funnel sticking out of it?
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so those funnels are where they're gonna put the powder when they're ready to blast and do that, so.
I thought they were planting tulips. No, I'm kidding.
So that's gonna help them hopefully move forward and not just sit there with the hammer and do 100 feet a day. So they should be able to pick up some speed there. And I believe their contract with Southbridge has them having all of the water line in and the laterals to the property lines by the end of this construction season.
Up there.
Yes. So they're a little bit under the gun right now, so they're pushing, they're trying to get as much done as possible. The Route 169 pump station, again, the construction on the pump station is slowed because they dug the so the hole for the foundation for the building itself, and it filled with water due to groundwater. So they've been working with, R.H. White's been working with Kleinfelter to get an approved dewatering plan. Part of the problem is, R.H. White didn't put dewatering in their bid, so Kleinfelter's telling them that they omitted it on purpose, and so they gambled and they lost, so now how they dewater is gonna be a cost to them, so they went back and forth a little bit. And I believe they came to a final agreement on what they're gonna have to do to dewater the hole, and they're gonna start that tomorrow, so that they can dewater the hole, stabilize the base, get a bunch of stone in there and start building up to the elevation for the foundation to be poured. So the foundation and the slab should be in by the end of this construction season, in the next couple of weeks to get that done, get the site to grade before this construction season ends.
So are they gonna bring in a water conditioning unit?
I'm not sure if they're gonna bring in a unit to pump it into and then drain it out through some filter sacks, or if they're just gonna pump it through filter sacks right from the get-go.
Okay,
But, the ground, it has gone down on its own a little bit, so
Sure.
whether they have to pump out 18 inches or 2 feet, kinda depends on where it is at that day and what we get for rain, so,
and those filter sacks work fairly well?
yes. Yeah. Well, they're doing it tomorrow, it'll be done. The school loop, Albany's brothers started installing the water line. I think it was supposed to start last Thursday, but they were there Friday morning, so they started digging last Thursday and Friday, and they were there today, so they're moving right along now. As Chris mentioned, there's a telecommunications duct bank that goes diagonally across Masonic Home Road in that portion. It's all encased in cement. So it was probably 6 feet wide, and it went across the trench at an angle, so to go under it was about 20 linear feet, almost the length of the pipe. Luckily, so there was some confusion on how they were gonna go around it. They talked about, again, like Chris said, some elbows to go alongside of it and then go perpendicular under it, so you're only crossing under 6 feet. They talked about going up and over it and insulating the pipe at about 3 feet, and that was a definite no. So they were able to get their compressor and a long blowgun. Luckily, there was enough sand underneath that they were able to just blow a hole underneath the cement and get the pipe, just sneak the pipe under it, so. No, that probably set them back probably about a day, but they were able to do it, get, like Chris said, get us the best results so that it's done correctly with, without kinda taking any shortcuts. So again, they're on site again today, they're moving forward up the hill.
Peter, is the plan to go from the booster pump location up to the building of Masonic Home? Or are they gonna wait until the pump station gets in and then do that?
I don't believe that's part of this agreement. I believe this just has them in the roadway and doing laterals to property lines. I don't believe this had them going up on the private property to
'Cause I
install that line.
ExxonMobil's responsible, again, for the connection.
Correct, so Exxon, they have plans,
Okay.
that portion of work is part of their pump station plan that we
Okay.
just got, that's still, under design review. So they're showing where they're locating the pump station, and they're showing how they're running the line from the pump station up their driveway to their current water tank. So that is not part of Albanese's current bid.
Okay.
That will be part of the pump station bid.
Has the water extension been, put into the plan to go to the police
Not yet.
station? Okay.
Albanese is aware of it, they're
Yeah.
willing to do it. I'll probably talk to the Board of Selectmen tomorrow. They moved some money from free cash, I believe, at special town meeting to fund that being done. So I'll ask them if they plan on having them do that tomorrow night, because they'll have to let them know in the next 3 to 4 days, because once they're done, once they get up to the overlook, that's done with their scope of work, and they're gonna move over to Old Worcester Road and start heading that way.
Is it worthwhile investigating, putting that out to bid to other bidders?
There may, as Chris did the estimated cost, I believe it was about $288 a foot. And that brings us right through, paving, curb to curb,
Okay.
next year. I think that's the biggest, so you don't really get, the economies of scale isn't there. I think if you were to go out to bid, you're looking at the same price. I've talked to Bob Mackey from Beta, he gave me some per foot cost that he's running into. Heather Blakely, I asked her what she thought about the $288 per foot, and she said it's not great, but it's pretty much consistent with what we'd get if we did go out to bid. And it's only 250 feet of pipe, so to go out to bid and do that on our
Well,
own,
a small guy can do that.
he can, but then he's gonna have to come in and have the road, someone else is gonna come in
Yeah.
and have to go curb to curb that 250 feet.
Yeah, it's, well, it's either Keating or,
Yeah.
or someone similar to that.
So I think it's easier and simpler to just have Albanese take it and finish that while they're there. And then when they come back next season, at the end of next summer and repave the road, they take it and they repave the entire portion. For the cost savings you'd get, if it was 5 or 6%, maybe, 10% max, you'd save $6,000-7,000. I'm not sure what the Board of Selectmen will decide, if they wanna take that chance and do it that way instead, or just let Albanese take it and get it to the property line and move forward that way. So, I'll discuss that with them tomorrow as well. They were looking for a recommendation from this board. I know we've talked about it in the past,
For what, Peter?
whether or not this board, whether or not you think they should do it at this time or wait. Whether you think it's a good idea to have Albanese do it at the price they gave, or to, like, kinda like what you're thinking, whether it's better off to just wait and go out to bid and do it on your own. So if you wanna talk about it and make a recommendation for them, I can share it with them tomorrow. They did ask for that. I know we talked about it the last time, and there wasn't really.
I don't recall talking about making a recommendation. I know that's what we were looking for, but I didn't know that on a specific date,
Okay.
we needed to give them that information.
So.
It's not our ultimate decision, is it, Selectmen?
No, but I think they were just looking to you to say, yes, it's a good idea to do it now because of whatever, because they're there, they'll be responsible for paving, it'll all be done by one contractor, there won't be any overlap, and it makes things easier that way. Where even though you might be able to go do it next spring on your own and get a different contractor, then it comes into, everyone points their fingers at everyone else, saying, well, I didn't do that part, that's not me, and
I think if they're there, we should have them do it.
Me too.
Leave that in a motion.
do you wanna make a motion to recommend that?
Is that what you need?
If you,
Would make you feel better?
well, if you want me to relay that, I can relay that two members said that they
You don't need a
recommended it.
motion for that, do you?
It's helpful.
You
They-
put your opinion in?
I put my opinion about whether we should do it
General, I
now or
said,
later.
Yeah, do it now, or
Yeah, well, it's-
do it separately later.
It really should be part of the job for when, if in fact this new facility is gonna get built.
Well, there was discussion about just extending it all the way down there at this time as well.
It's only, I mean,
It's another-
it's the next piece of property, isn't it?
It's another 500 feet, it just about triples.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from what I could see, the best I could tell, because we're not going across the entire portion of the police station, we're just going just beyond the property line and getting to that portion
Okay.
before the parking lot. So you have to go across the full frontage of the police station, and then to where they're planning their access road, I believe. As I looked at it, it was an additional 500 feet.
But isn't, the new piece of property, does it abut the police
does.
station property?
It does.
All right, so as soon as you get by the police station, you get on your private property, you can run cross-country with no problem, you're on private property. You don't have to run up the driveway, not like Mass Electric would say.
I suppose, you could. But again, Chris didn't design that portion of it, and then
No,
I
So
never
how
heard,
far up do you need it to go?
for the police station only is what's been designed for, and it's approximately $72,000.
So I make a motion that we continue with Albanese Brothers up to the police station in Charlton.
So you wanna recommend that to the Board of Selectmen?
That would be my recommendation for the Board of Selectmen.
I have a second on that,
yeah, second for discussion.
discussion,
Yeah,
okay?
Jen, the motion, one more time, is gonna be that
We
it's-
go with Albanese Brothers, who's doing the
we're
work now.
recommending Albanese Brothers?
Yes, to
Install.
continue the work up to the police station in
Okay.
Charlton.
Okay,
And we recommend that to the Board of Selectmen.
all right, at the cost of the town, and not the water and sewer.
Yes.
Okay, fine, I don't have a problem with that.
We're just giving a recommendation for the selectmen.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 So Keith mentioned the RBC repairs, those are going well. There's a few other things we're gonna have to kind of look at and put some stuff together for you to see what the final cost will be to get them truly up and running and ready to go. And once we get there, we'll put that in front of you as a packet. We did go to a special town meeting, and that money was transferred, so there's, I believe it was $117,000 that was transferred into an account for us to repair the two of them.
Peter, the pipe repair, which was,
I think it was $3,500. You approved 7,000, up to 7,000, and that
okay.
was for pipe repair and also for the electrical to be separated, because as of right now, to lock out one RBC, you have to lock them out both at the same time, which isn't helpful, so.
no,
So to repair both, the piping and the electrical, I believe was $7,000 that you approved.
so what's the bid on that? Did you get a quote from anybody?
John said he could do it for, yes, because that $7,000 came from the estimated repairs from the report from Veolia.
So the electrical end only is 7,000?
The electrical and the
Only.
piping, the piping's already been done.
Piping's been done, all right, so you, and it's 3,500. So the remaining 3,500 is gonna go to electrical?
Correct, I think there might be 4,500 and 2,500, but yes, it was, so.
And Viola's gonna do that?
Gonna do that. Correct. In talking to Keith, he said, let's wait until we make sure that there's no leaks before we have them come in and do the electrical. So we really started with just the piping, at the ground level that needed to be fixed, and we're kind of, as Keith said, the basins are full, everything, the RBCs are rotating, everything seems good, so. Again, there's a few small things. There's one chamber, a pre-chamber, before it goes into the RBCs, into the rotators, where there used to be, I mean, from what I heard, there was a bucket line that would go into the trough, pick it up, and then dump it into a pathway into the RBC. So looking at that, if the material just goes into it, the sludge will settle, and that'll just end up filling up with solids over time. So I think we need to talk to somebody and see if we can just almost bypass that with a pipe and get it right into the first chamber with the RBCs, instead of trying to redesign and get that bucket line or whatever it was to slough that
But wouldn't
into the RBC.
Sorry, Peter, but wouldn't the normal maintenance be to where the maintenance people would come and in that chamber to where anything heavy falls to the bottom, to where they would come in with just a suction line and suck it up and put it somewhere else?
I think in the past, the buckets would scoop it up, and on the way by, it would dump it
Right,
into the
right.
trough to go into the RBC itself.
Right, and they would let it settle. It's almost working like a catch basin.
No,
Let your
because
solids drop and,
No, because the bucket would pick it up and put it into the
oh, it
RBC.
would go that deep?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I hear you.
So, if you see what I'm saying? It would
Cut a
just,
hole.
yes.
Yeah.
Like a water wheel.
Yeah.
But, so I think that's one of the only surprises we found so far. Luckily, the $117,000 included, I think it was $25,000 or $30,000 to coat the inside of the RBCs, which we may not need to do, so, I think we definitely wanna have them covered. That cost should be consistent with what it cost you before. It was like probably $25,000 a piece to cover them and get whatever we need for, duct work and pumps, air pumps to get the flow through there. And then, hopefully we won't have to coat them and we can just get them ready to go.
Those RBCs don't have that many hours on them, Peter, compared to the other ones.
I don't,
Yeah, they've been,
I know they've been
Doing
down
it
for a
quite a
long,
while.
I know they've been down for a long time, yes, but I
Yeah.
don't know how long previously. They're definitely a different style of RBC
Yeah, they are.
than the other 8 that are there. These were definitely the first 2. These were the
Yeah.
first 2 that were put in place with the original plan. So what year that was, I haven't been able to find that out. And then lastly, consecutive water supply. Now that the water rate study's been completed by Abrahams, I went and met with Heather Blakely to talk about what our base water rate would be and if there's any room for movement. In talking to her and looking at what Abrahams came up with, I think it might be possible for us to plan to go consecutive water supply, say, January 1st of 2020, of 2020. That will ensure us that the Berry Corner Road loop is done, the residents are connected, The overlook will be connected, so those additional customers will get us over the tipping point of being able to afford to do that. And also in talking to Heather, I asked her if there was any way they could move on their base rate of $3.30 per 100 cubic feet, which is what she said would be our cost. And she said possibly because of, we had the documentation from Abraham showing it really is cost effective for us to do it until everything's connected. So what I mentioned to her is maybe we can do our own tiered rate. Time out.
Do you think maybe this should be discussed in the executive session? Because it's relative to negotiations.
Possibly.
I'm trying to think.
And you're talking about funds.
It's possible, we may wanna do that. We can bring that, I can.
That's my
we can-
suggestion.
So, okay, I'll just let you know, we've had a discussion and there's room for negotiations as of right now. But again, she would have to bring that to the town manager and also to the council. But, I'll follow up and have more conversations with her and we can have that on an executive session moving forward. And that's all I have.
Motion to adjourn.
I have new business, other business.
Other business?
I do, real quick.
Is
I
it- is it
attended-
on the agenda?
It wasn't known
Go
until,
ahead, go
I
ahead,
went to
go
the
ahead.
open meeting
I'm on-
law,
go ahead,
and
go ahead, go
I
ahead.
went to the open meeting law, meeting that was held in Spencer.
Yeah.
And it was pretty informative, so I will give my copy of what I picked up to Sue to make copies for everybody, if anybody's interested. But it gave like the 10 reasons to go into executive session, and I believe that might have been one of them.
Yeah.
And different things that you can bring up, you can't bring up things that you can do and not do. And it was really informative, so. that's-
Is that the same meeting that was held here?
No, the one that was
this-
held here was ethics.
Oh, okay.
That
It
was
was
just,
ethics? Okay,
yes.
and you, open meeting, yeah.
Open meeting.
Yeah,
That's it.
they're always informative.
Motion to adjourn.
No, I
Second.
already had one, so either way. And, all those in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Peter.
thank you.